Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Sounds from a Distance. I am your host and DJ Tyra. Today, I have another interview with Scott
Forthofer.
Fortover. And say hello and let the people know what you do here at
Hello,
Landmark.
my name is Scott Forthofer, and I am the manager of the Landmark College Bookstore.
Yes. So, Scott, what brought you to Landmark?
Uh, I originally came to Landmark with for housing
Mhm.
for residential life, and then I ended up switching down to the bookstore. Um,
Oh, so
to
did you attend Landmark? Because I
no, I was initially hired to a position working in residential life.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. That's I was what I was thinking was something different. Okay, so you eventually switched over
And
to
then I
work in the
switched, and then
bookstore.
this position opened up, and I applied for this position.
Mm. So have you ever worked in like a bookstore before, or is it the first time?
No, this is the first time that I've worked in the bookstore. My background is more with had been more with student activities, housing, and conferencing till
Mm.
then.
So you've worked in different colleges before.
That's correct. Yep. Yeah,
Mm.
this is the fifth college I've worked at.
Wow. So what colleges have you worked at, and like where have they been in?
I've worked at a university in North Carolina, Lenore Rhine University, um, and then out west, University of Idaho, Carroll College, and Montana Technological University.
Montana. That's
Yep.
in is that southern or am I
No,
thinking
that's
from here?
west. That's right next to the top part of Idaho, Washington, Oregon area. Where you know how we bordered, Montana bordered Canada, kind of like
Vermont
Vermont
borders
borders
Canada.
Canada. So we're kind of just northern top states.
Okay, I don't know why I thought Southern. I don't know why
No,
that's the
no,
image that comes into my head when I think Montana. Maybe it's
yeah,
because I just don't know enough about the place.
sure.
Um, so of all the places that you have worked, which one's your favorite?
I don't know if I have a strong favorite. Each one brought something new. Like, for example, Landmark College, what I'm doing now is nothing that I've done before. So it's provides me with new daily challenges that I have not been used to in the past. Um, it's also allowed me, I feel like this job, I've gotten a closer connection with students um, than I have recently just because I see everybody coming in. Um, I think sometimes when you're in housing and whatnot, some students can be a little reserved what they say, but when you run in the bookstore, we had like a conversation.
I feel like people are just less scared, maybe.
That I think that's probably true. I mean, I'm the same person as I was when I worked in other areas, but it's sometimes the position. But I like to think that I enjoy having daily conversations with the students. I enjoy hearing things that they like, or if we get into like, for me, sometimes getting a new product and seeing the excitement. For example, when you came in that one day and
Oh
saw
yeah,
the Lay's
the
ketchup,
ketchup chips and lost my mind because those are like Canadian staples, and you really can't find them outside of Canada unless you order them, and obviously they're more expensive because they have to be shipped. But or
yeah,
when you bought the Pez, because I remember that day, like
so
everyone who came in bought Pez.
I bought a I bought like 100 Pez things and could not believe they how quickly they sold out. I did not know.
I was surprised how much people liked them. I was like, huh, that's interesting.
But it's kind of just fun to see what students want. And now, I mean, now one of the things that I also like doing in the bookstore for students who have quite a bit of dining dollars left is helping them get the full value of their dining plan. And so if they have an item they want, I go search for it and see if I can bring it in, even if it's just for them. So,
Oh,
so it's not something we have to do, but I think, and it's probably my student affairs background of wanting everybody to feel a connection, have something, even though it's a bookstore, but that can be impactful of if you have that special food that you had that you really enjoy when you're having a bad day, knowing that you got it had a place on campus to get it or you were able to order it in can sometimes make a little difference in the day. At least I like to hope that.
Yeah, yeah, it does. So you said that you used to like do student activities. So what are
Hmm.
your favorite like activities that you've ever put on?
So I did one at a couple different schools. It's called the egg scramble. So we'd get anywhere from 3 to 4,000 plastic eggs. It'd be right around Easter, and we'd stuff them all with candy. And anywhere from 50 to 100 of those pieces of candy would have a label wrapped around that would say a prize. And so if you got one of those, you ran to the table and you collected your prize. But we would spend weeks stuffing all these eggs and then lay all of them out. So it's a scramble. It wasn't a egg find, um, and uh, it wasn't like an egg hunt because um, it looked like a field of polka dotted eggs. And so we would have students line up. Usually we had anywhere from 100, 150 students. And I kid you not, every year we did it in less than 60 seconds. All the eggs were picked up. But the coolest part of it was occurred afterwards. After everybody grabbed all the eggs, people clumped together, just hanging out, talking while they're searching through eggs. And sometimes when someone got a prize winner, it was like that whole group would get up and rush over to the table just to see what that person won, and then they would go back to their little spot and start going through more. So that community building that occurred I really liked. And the other thing I liked, one year we did a Fear Factor challenge. So I got freeze dried insects
Ah,
for
yes,
people to eat.
because you also got some here.
I did get some flavored
I
crickets.
wanted to try one, but I was really scared. I'm not gonna lie, I was so terrified.
Well, over let's see, I think it's almost 3 billion people in the world eat insects as part of their nutrition. It just doesn't occur really on this side or in the northern hemisphere, but I don't know. I got it in just to try. Some people really liked it, and I still have a couple students asking if I'm ever going to get crickets again. But for the vast majority, it was like, nah, we'll just leave it in the package. But yeah,
Oh, did you try any?
yeah, they don't really have much. Once you freeze dry them, they don't have much of a taste. It's just the idea.
But aren't they flavored? Like, don't they
Well,
come
yeah,
in
some of them
specific
were
flavor?
flavored. Yeah, the one I tried to think was lasagna. I didn't know if it really tasted like lasagna to me, but it had a like a cheese flavor to it.
Oh, was it
But
crunchy?
it was crunchy. Yeah, no. Uh, when I did the Fear Factor challenge, when you get some students that were a little nervous, I'm like, it's okay. Eating the cricket, it's not like you feel the legs going down your throat as you just to just to get the reaction more. But um, I don't know. I thought it was fun, but it's I don't know. I think doing fun little things like that, especially when you're in college, getting to try something new, something you haven't tried before. Sometimes it doesn't work out, and you're like, nope, never again. But at least you know. But I don't know. So I like trying to bring some things like that into the store on rare occasions,
Yeah.
just to mix it up a little bit.
So how many years have you worked in colleges as a whole?
I started in 2000, so almost 23 years now.
And was that a job you got like right out of college, or did you do something before you decided you wanted to work at colleges?
No, that so I actually right after high school I got a certificate for through a travel and tourism program, and I worked on a paddle wheel steamboat.
A
Um,
boat?
yep, I worked on a steamboat traveling up the Mississippi and Ohio River. I did that for about a year and a half. That I worked on the boat. Um,
Wait, what did you do on the boat?
well, I was a my first job on the boat was a porter, so um, we helped bring all the luggage on and deliver it straight to the rooms, and then um, they usually assign me to work the front desk, so I do room service. I would talk with the passengers, I would handle their requests, um, and then I switched to a cabin attendant or the cleaner. The pay was really good. I don't know what I was thinking. The pay was super good for that, but I switched that because it it paid pretty good on tips.
Was
Uh,
it like a okay? at least it was a steam, but I'm thinking like, wouldn't a cruise ship be the one that has like a desk or a front desk for people to go?
Yes. So if you picture like Mark Twain days, where he talks about traveling the mighty Mississippi on a boat with a big wheel on the back that was turning and spinning, this was just like that boat. If the wheel broke or stopped moving,
Yo,
the
we're
whole
just
boat, we were stuck. Um, we could only go about 6 miles an hour up the river, and there was even a time when up in Minnesota they got a lot of rain. The river, the Mississippi River, was rushing so fast, it was going too fast for the boat to even make any. The boat couldn't go forward.
so wait, so it was rushing down fast the opposite direction that you
Yes,
were streaming.
yes, and so they had to cancel all the trips up to that area for that brief little moment, and so they did some other things. But I mean, they would bring in big band jazz, so they had uh, Tommy Dorsey, Glenn Miller Orchestra. They brought in retired old time baseball players, and they would come and hang out with the passengers the whole week. They'd sign autographs. We would stop. They would stop by all kind of like local touristy areas, anywhere from New Orleans all the way up to Minneapolis, St. Paul, St. Louis, Missouri, over to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And so it was a different way of life. It was, they said, and it was like taking things a little slower. And so the food was good. I mean, even for the employees, because on nights where they had lobster dinner, usually that first night, if you got down to the crew kitchen fast enough, and if they had leftover lobster tails, sometimes you get leftover lobster tails, so there was always a line of people trying to get in. But I think for me, the hardest part was being away from family and friends with that, because I would work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for 6 to 7 weeks straight, and then I'd get about a week to a week and a half off.
Okay, because I've always wondered about that. The same way I wonder about like people who flight attendants. Because I'm like, if you're always flying to different places for like periods of the time, then do you even have like a house, or like what's the point of having a home or a place to live if you're not going to be there most of the time?
Sure. Well, when I was on the riverboat, there were we actually had some parents where this was the way that they could raise more money for their family. And so I remember this one cabin attendant, her kids lived with her mom, so with their grandmother, and she would come on the boat and work. And the cabin attendant did pretty good. You could make almost $1,000 a week just in tips, not including the paycheck. And this was 20 years. This is over 20 years ago. So it's probably way more now. But this was. She's like, this way I can make sure that my. She's like, that way I can make sure my mom and my kids are in a better location to live, and this way I can support them this way. And so she would only get to see them for a week and a half, once every 6 weeks or so, which was a bummer, but that was how she found to be able to fully support her family. So for that end, they have some. Um, for me, I was recently out of high school, so I didn't have a place. So I just always would fly home, or when you worked on the riverboat long enough, you could get on other cruise ships and pay like $10 a night. If they had an opening, you could just go down there, show up, show your badge, and you get charged $10 a night.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so for like a 7 day cruise, $70.
Wow, wow, wow.
So there was some different, there's little perks, but I mean, it's a lifestyle. So you live and work same place when you're on there. So if you need the separation, it's not the right place. But if you're okay with combining everything, it was a great little fun place. I mean, the bedrooms were the size of a closet, and then you had bunk beds that shared. It was only like 6 feet across the room by like 8 feet, so it wasn't very. The rooms weren't very big, but you didn't spend a lot of your times in your room.
So the places you docked, did you at least get to like, I guess, go around and see the sights of the places that you docked, or was it just like dock, let all the passengers come off and then off to the next?
It depends what time of day, depending on your job. Because when you work 12 hours, I typically worked 12 noon to midnight when I
Mm.
was a porter. And when I was a cabin attendant, you'd get up when the passengers were at breakfast and lunch. You were cleaning the rooms, then you had a break, and then you came back at dinner to turn down the beds, put them in on the pillows, and do all that. So when I was a captain, I got to go off to see some of those. But you didn't ever get to go where the passengers go. So I would hit antique shops and different things just to explore or catch a movie because then nobody had at that time cell phones are just coming out, so it's not like you had cell phones or that was the time you got off the boat to make a phone call to family or friends. There wasn't email, dial up, all that stuff that we take for granted now. So it was a lot of I used a lot of those times to catch up what people were doing. So
Wow, that sounds like an adventure.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was. But what it did was make me go, do I want to do this for my whole life? Is this how? And I was like, no. So I said, maybe I should go to college. And then I went to college and became an RA.
Mm.
And from there, I started seeing what my hall director was doing. I'm like, I could do this. I like this. And so I lived on campus for about 18 years in different housing roles until eventually becoming a director. And then I moved up into other roles. And then now I'm trying something new.
Mm. So, what does it require to be an RA? And I don't know if it's the same for all schools or if this school is different from another one, because I know a couple people who are RAs, and I'm like, that seems like a lot of responsibility, like in terms of jobs. Like, I work on campus, but I'm like, I probably wouldn't want to do that.
Sure. Well, you know how I talked about on the riverboat, you live where you work. As an RA, you live in you where you work. So to to really be an RA, first thing is you have to want to do it. What you get paid is good and is important, but that can't be your only reason because there could be a night where you're studying and somebody is struggling. They come knock on your door, and sometimes it's good to check in on them. Or um, it's as an RA, you're almost always living in a fishbowl. What I mean is, have you ever seen one of those round fish bowls when you look in and the goldfish all of a sudden looks huge, but when you look over top the bowl into the water, it's really tiny.
Yeah.
It really expands. So life as a leader is often like living life in a fishbowl. Everybody's looking at you from the side. So anything you do, if you do something wrong, it looks bigger than life. And someone's like, wait, I didn't think we could do that. Or, I mean, so you really have to embody a certain lifestyle on and off campus. And so it's not always for everyone. But I think for the students that want to grow as a leader and they want to be there to help other students, the RA position can be a great and rewarding role. And it could also lead into a career. That's kind of where it led to me. I jumped into a hall director position, then started learning all about the different jobs on campus. I don't think very many people are in high school and go to college go, I'm going to be a hall director when I grow up, or I'm going to work for a college when I grow up, unless they have family that work. It's kind of once you get into college, you start to see these other jobs and go, I think I would love to do that. And then and then the housing, and with housing, we do programmings in the halls with the RAs and training that. That led to me going, well, I'd like to do more. And so then I kind of jumped over into student activities for a little bit and did some other things. Um, so instead of doing programming for a building of 80 or 100, now you're talking about a campus of 2 to 5,000 students that you are trying to provide entertainment needs, educational, non-educational, which I always thought was fun.
Because I always thought an RA was like usually just a student, and then when they graduate, it's just another person comes in. So I didn't know it could be a career
It
necessarily.
can lead into career. Most people don't. Most RAs they do it for a semester, a year, maybe 2 years, and then they do something else, or they graduate and go off. Every once in a while, someone goes, "I could try this," or if say you want to go to graduate school,
Mm.
and say you're an RA, sometimes you can get a job called a graduate assistant, and at many schools that have graduate assistant programs in housing, it means your housing's covered. A lot of times your grad program um, academic costs are covered for you to work 20 to 30 hours a week with housing while being a student. So not coming out with a lot of loans, and then coming out with a lot of experience. So you can go be an RA and then come out with 2 years of grad experience and come out with your master's degree. And if you want to stay in higher ed, having a master's degree is important for certain roles. So if you want to get into housing, student activities, or there's admissions work, um, I mean, you've got your business and finance side. So there's a lot of opportunities I don't think everybody knows about.
So, do you think working in colleges for you is going to be a job that you retire in?
Right now, yeah, yeah, I do. I wish I think I'm closer to retirement than I was, which is scary to think about. But no, I like working for colleges. As some of my friends, it's like, well, when are you ever going to grow up and go out into the real world? And I'm like, college is a real world. It's just not what everybody's used to. Every year you meet a whole. What I like is every year you meet a whole new group of students um, who's bringing excitement. So the freshmen, um, they're excited to be at school. They're nervous being away from home, and then you see all that growth that comes to when they graduate, and it's amazing on how much growth some students have in college. Then you get other students that they know exactly what they want to do. The last school I worked at, majority of the students were in engineering programs,
Mm.
so they a lot of them came in. I wanna work for the oil refineries. I wanna work with minds. I want to work in mathematical with in some of the think tanks with doing mathematics. They have an idea what they're doing, and so for that school, it was very specific. A lot of the students knew what they were doing. I went to other schools where people came and it's like, I don't know. I just know I need to go to college or I want to go to college, and then they figure out what they want to be. I have my undergrad was computer science. I didn't end up using it because I went into housing, and then I got my master's in education, which I used more so than that. But um, it was just kind of what I usually tell. I tell my children that um, you can have a plan. That's great. Have a plan what you want, but don't instantly close off a door or a suggestion that comes up because you never know what's going to lead. If I hadn't tried being an RA, I probably wouldn't have known everything and it wouldn't have led me to where I'm at, which I've been very happy with. Um, who knows? I could be a computer programmer, making I don't know, working for Blizzard. I don't know, but I think if yeah, if, as long as you're really open to um, opportunities that come up and trying something new, I think that's always important. That always adds a little spice to life.
Okay, so I'm just going to assume, I'm not sure, but I'm going to assume that Landmark is the first college you probably worked for that has like this specific demographic of students that it handles. So do you notice maybe a difference in student interactions or student behavior that you're at a school for neurodivergent students than being at like a more regular college?
Sure, yeah. I would say almost every college has a small group of students that are neurodivergent, whether they're diagnosed or they're diagnosed. Um, but I think this is the first school that I've worked at to where the programs were geared for their success and were geared knowing that changes and accommodations shouldn't have to be hard or difficult to make. Because other places I've worked, students would have to go through a lot of hoops and channels just for accommodations sometimes that weren't protected. And we're here, I feel like it's okay, yeah, we're going to have accommodations, we're going to make. I think the difference, I think, for your question on if I've noticed a difference with students, I honestly, what I like about Landmark students are they seem to kind of know who they are as a person. Like I like I like sci-fi. I like plushies. I like this, and they're not afraid to show it or tell you about it. Or I have an interest. I had one student talk to me about all these different. lobsters and different things. Where most schools, everybody's a little nervous about, well, this isn't my interest, isn't something most people are interested in, so they're afraid to share. Where here, I found more students are willing to be open about what they enjoy, what they do, what's going on in their life, and that could just be down here in the bookstore too. But um, I do see a lot more students that are introverted that that they're working towards trying to be more social and more engaged with other people and learning how to do that. I see there's more of a population that I see with that, but I think the key is majority of the students are here because they want to grow and want to learn, and I think that's the biggest key. If you have that true desire, you almost always are going to make leaps and bounds growth because you're open to the idea. And I feel like this campus is student body is really open.
Hmm. Well, it was great having an interview with you today. I'm so glad that we found time to talk today, honestly, because I was kind of like trying to work around my schedule. I didn't know if it was going to be able to happen, but thank you so much for sharing with me and sharing with my audience. Um, and I'm gonna miss this bookstore. One, I'm sad I didn't get to work here this semester because of you hired a new person full time, so there wasn't enough hours,
Right.
obviously. But also I'm transferring next semester. Uh,
You go, yay!
unfortunately,
Well, no, that's
but
good news for you. I
fortunately,
mean, that's good for you, right? It
yes.
has programs that you're wanting to do get
Yeah,
into.
yeah, he has more focused programs because at least in landmark like a class that I'm really interested in, which is theater. There's only one teacher for it, and I've pretty much taken all the classes that he offers. So I'm like, I really can't take any more
Sure.
theater classes while I'm here. So and I would be sad if I had to like never take theater again.
Right.
So
Well, we'll be sad to see you go, but the other part with college is sometimes you have to make those changes to help put yourself where you want to be in the future and recognizing that. So good for you, recognizing that you need more and going after that's a great
yes, it is. Well, thank you again.
thing. Yep.
Thank you again
And
for
we're
meeting
shaking
with me.
hands now.
Yes, we're shaking hands now, just so everyone is aware we're shaking hands. And So this has been another episode of the Sounds from a Distance. I was about to say podcast. It's not a
Right.
podcast. Radio show. I will speak to you guys later. Goodbye.